I wanted to film this engine in time-lapse mode, but we have certain circumstances right now, and I want to voice them to tell you how things are going with this engine. So, what happened? What's the reason for removing it? The reason for removing it. This engine seized up on us. First, there was a knocking sound for a while, and then it just seized. And it's impossible to turn it over, not with the starter, not even, for example, I even tried turning it with a crowbar. So the engine just won't turn over. When I took it apart, I saw the following picture. Here, the fourth main bearing shell got welded to the crankshaft, and it also welded and damaged the shells on the third. So that's the third, seventh and eighth, fourth and eighth. The bearing shells are in this condition. This is how they got damaged and welded, and here are the other bearing shells from this journal. There's the third and the seventh. This is how they look, stacked and overlapped on top of each other. Basically, this is no longer a bearing shell, it's just leftovers, metal shavings, so to speak. The oil level in the oil pan increased due to diesel fuel entering the oil pan, causing the described issue. There are two reasons for this. Either it's the fuel pump, meaning some plungers started leaking, diesel started getting into the oil and then draining with the oil into the oil pan. But still, I think it's more likely the injectors. That is, one of the injector nozzles got stuck, and instead of spraying, the diesel just started pouring into the cylinder. And some of it goes out through the exhaust pipe and some of it ends up in the oil pan. So, the oil level in the oil pan started to rise, meaning the oil was getting diluted with diesel, and as a result, it lost its properties and became thin. In the end, we had about 3 levels there, meaning we poured in, I don't know, about 50 liters, roughly speaking. That's the reason diesel was getting in. Eventually, it seized up and the bearings got welded. So I somehow managed to take it apart. I even had to remove the counterweights there to somehow unscrew it. Because the engine, well, the crankshaft wouldn't turn in the block, so I couldn't, for example, get the pistons out. In general, I struggled with it for a long time, but I somehow managed to take it apart. What's next with this engine? The plan was to take the block to get it checked and maybe have it machined, because it was also damaged. The block for these bearings? So, they took the block to check the bearing seats. After the inspection, it turned out that it needed to be machined. The bearing seats had to be fixed. Well, basically, that could have been predicted anyway. So it turns out the block is already faulty, it can be repaired, but there won't be a 100% guarantee. Of course, it would be better to replace it completely. The costliest main component, the engine block, must be replaced. So as for the crankshaft, we can also see how it got damaged here, how it got beaten up. In some places the bearings got welded, and in some places the crankshaft itself. So that's how everything got messed up here. I already checked it, and it's got more than 0.5 millimeter of wear. Most likely it can be machined down to something like 0.75 repair or 1.0 repair. But on a turbocharged engine you should install these kinds of repair bearings, especially since we can see how everything here turned blue, the metal structure changed, and so on. That means there was serious overheating here. This crank is also done for, it needs to be thrown out too, so we no longer have the block, we no longer have the crankshaft. What else do we see? As you can see, I have the flywheel here and we can observe the wear on it. Right here you can see it's been marked, and if we take the bearing it just falls right in there. I already tried fitting another bearing here, a new one, and this spot on the flywheel, the seat for the bearing, is worn out. The flywheel also needs to be thrown out. I also forgot to mention that these 4 connecting rods, 3, 7 and 4, 8, also need to be thrown out. The sleeves here are also heavily worn, so the sleeves are also heavily worn. I was only able to take out 2 pistons from the sleeves. For all the others, I had to knock them out together with the sleeves because the wear was so bad that even the piston rings couldn't pass through. So as we can see, the sleeves also need to be replacement now. So I want to show the flywheel housing. We can see that, for example, the thread is stripped here, the thread is stripped in this spot, the thread is stripped here, the housing is broken in this spot. So it turns out the housing needs to be replaced again. Next, the pump. We don't know for sure what condition it's in. Maybe diesel was getting into the oil pan because of it. So the pump also at the very least needs to be checked. As for the turbochargers on this engine, they were also leaking oil. Even now they're struggling to turn. Maybe some metal shavings got in. I'll show you the oil pan now. The oil pan is full of shavings. These shavings were being pushed through the system. Maybe some of them also got stuck on the bushings, but the turbocharger needed to be replaced anyway. So we need to replace the turbocharger, and the oil pump also needs to be replaced. The shavings damaged the housing, gears and other components. Well, accordingly, the pressure relief valve too, those shavings could have gotten in there, it could have jammed, so that also needs to be replaced. Here we can see this kind of shavings, and we can see how much of this fine foil is on the intake. You could say the bearing shell got crushed into this kind of foil. Here is the oil pump, and the pressure relief valve also needs to be replaced. Replacement next. I tried to unscrew the injectors, and as you can see, for example, the nut just got crushed. Basically, it tore the nut apart. And the injectors won't unscrew, so there's a chance that some of the injectors here won't come off, and we'll have to replace some of the heads. So you can see how much is piling up, how much we end up having to replace. So basically that's all that's left of this engine. Here's the camshaft. The camshaft is in excellent condition. The lobes aren't worn down, the gear is perfect, so there are no issues with the camshaft. As for the lifters, we've got reinforced ones here, and even though they're used, they'll still last a while. The pistons here are more or less okay, I guess, the pistons. I'm judging by these two that I took out, so they're still more or less okay, probably still usable. These 6 I haven't even taken out yet, and I'm not going to take them out. Now I'll tell you why the owner of this engine, the owner of the bus, decided not to restore this engine. In the end, only the pistons, camshaft, oil pan, manifold, and a few other parts remain of this engine. That's how this short video and teardown turned out. Thanks for watching, good luck to all, bye.